and I did try to go to sleep earlier, and yeah, I ruined that by having a nap at like 9 PM for an hour. So I'm asking myself how I can do a short video, and I think I'm just going to do a tour of all the little features that are in the engine. But YouTube is not showing my stream. There it is. And let's get it up. Come on. Okay, just getting set up. All of my game engine features so far. That might be famous last words when there's so many little features and bugs that have become features and features that have become bugs. But it will just be, I'll give an overview. So that's just me getting set up on the YouTube side. Okay, do we have the engine up? Yep. It has been in the chat. Okay, let's have a little look. So why am I doing this? Actually, just yesterday. What's that bit of text? I think I was just giving someone a tour without really, wasn't intentional. And then I realised that there was quite a few things in that I'd forgotten about. So maybe I will start with what's on the screen. So we have the user interface, which is from, I'm going to put it in the chat. Let's get the chats. Okay, so I am GUI, GUI is for the user interface. So the purple boxes I'm turning on and off with a shift key. So you'll see a lot of projects will use this, but normally you might just see, you see the window in the middle, you might just see one little window in the middle, and that will be it. And then there could be a small or a large project, but I've obviously gone quite hard on how much of a user interface I'm using. Everything really is controlled by this. But you'd expect that, or at least something, for an engine. You can see it's not very neat, but it's powerful in what it lets you do. Instead of restarting the program and restarting your application to change some variables or even to test for bugs, you can do a lot of it just with your interface. Good question. Did you study how to make a game engine from university or yourself? So I went to university for like 2 months to do a master's in computer science and AI, but that was when COVID started, and so a lot of people dropped out. I was one of those people, and some health issues as well. But my first degree wasn't in computer science, so I had to do some background studies first online. So I went to udemy.com to do a C++ tutorial, and it was quite a long tutorial, and as I was getting halfway through, I realized that at the end I'm not going to have any proof that I have some knowledge, and so because they don't give certificates, so what I did, water break, was I went onto edX.org for certification. I did a 2 or 3, I did a C++ course with Microsoft through edX.org, and I think it was like $200 or $100, but if you was a student or if you was unwell and you could write an email or a letter, they would give you 90% off. So that's an option. So yeah, my background was doing online courses basically, so all self-taught, and probably the biggest help I got was, I'll write it down now, from Discord and Reddit. I don't really like Reddit, but for knowledge it's good. I've lost something. 1 second. I have some studio lights here and it's just a bit hot. But then in a minute it'll be a bit cold. Okay, I think we're good. Sorry for the pause. We're back. Okay, so that's the user interface, and also there's a lot of, as you can see, this might be quite simple, and also I do live stream, but most people will watch this when it's not live, so feel free to go forward a few minutes and just check out different sections. But basically you will get your checkboxes, turn things on and off, you'll get your sliders, you get your drop down menus, you get color pickers, so maybe you want to change the sky, the background color, all those things can come built in, but you have to code these, so you're coding these in C++, it's still code. You can have like file, window, open dialogues and so on. But what we need now, basically we have a 3D world. I've created a grid. I used a tutorial from, I can't remember the tutorial, there's a few on YouTube, so YouTube's a very good resource. It's always good to have a little bit of formal training first, because some tutorials aren't good at all and you don't really know what's good and what's not, so you just have to keep going. Okay, but yeah, we've got a 3D space. You put the grid in, so then you can sort of see where you are, so it's quite important to get otherwise you don't have a reference point. And especially, so I need to fix that key, but if I turn the sky off, now imagine that's your 3D world. I'm rotating, but you don't really know. There's some writing right in the background there. It can sort of be a reference point, but so yeah, you get your grid on, and then you can. So that's why engines and 3D software will have a grid. But you can put anything. You can just have ground. Put the sky on. Okay, so the first thing I have is what I've called a height map editor, and the height map is something used to generate terrain. So this is all a tool to generate the 3D world, the terrain. So let's say we want to create a grid that is 128 by 128. Amplitude, do we want it flat or high? Let's say we want it quite flat, but just a little bit of a bump. Or as far as the height, then how many bumps you can put up the frequency. Let's put up a little bit. So a frequency of many distortions, so bumps, basically hills. And if it's higher, obviously it would be a mountain. And just press export, and then that will create. Let's have a look here. So it's created water everywhere, then the landmass in the middle, which is what I wanted. So we've just generated this. If I just going to lighten it up with the sun brightness. So as I was demonstrating earlier with the sliders, so this is sun brightness. Time of day, you'll see a bit of a shading. So that's simulating the sun position. Now if we get really close here, you can see, I mean, you couldn't really walk on this landmass. Also another tool here, turn it to wireframe on and off. And you will see, start to see with the grid. So I'll get rid of the grid. But you can see how messy that terrain is. It's not flat, but that's wireframe on and off. So what I would do is change the frequency. So because the hills are really low, but there's too many, I'll drop that right down. It's just going to become quite smooth. That's more natural. The light will have a better effect. Now the water moves a little bit when I move the camera, but when I'm still, it's fine. But that's another thing. We have some ripples on the water. So we've simulated in the engine quite a basic water. In my studio, it sometimes gets too hot, so I have my little fan, but it just dived off. Okay, so that's water. So UI, water. Let's look at a bit more terrain. So I might want to make the height of the terrain, just showing how the height map works. The height more, the frequency drops a little bit, and then export. So now you can see you've got hills, not mountains, they're big hills. It depends on what you're using it for as well. We can also save terrain here, so I saved it now, and load it will just bring it back. If we, I think there's too many, it's not too natural. Drop it even more. And then what I have is another tool here, persistence. Yeah, no, so I do it, good question. Is this my full-time job? How many years to learn this much? I would say maybe 2 years knowledge. I honestly think I'm still a junior coder. I have a lot of bad habits in my code, so I need to be under a more senior coder, which I've never done, except online. So I need someone to like sort of really give me some harsh feedback on my code. I just kind of make things work, and then I have a lot of bugs, or I don't want to say bad grammar, but maybe I comment things out and I don't clean them up. There's a lot of old code that it's not tidy. I know what I'm doing to a certain extent, but I'm still definitely a newbie. There's just lots of little systems interacting. But good questions. What was we saying? I think the persistence tool here, so more terrain editing. And feel free to ask questions. I believe if the persistence is higher, it might drop those hills. Yeah. So this is So to generate terrain, you basically need a noise generating function, and then you can kind of tweak that noise. It turns it into the hills, into the terrain, and these are just different variables that are tweaking it. And then octaves, higher the octave, you will see if we go close, there'll be more detail on the bumps. So there you just saw it's quite subtle, but it has a big impact. If I move the sun position, you see like you see the shadows here. If I drop it down from 8 to maybe 4, you'll see the difference. So it's a little bit smoother, but it's less detail. Okay, so we have show terrain. So maybe I import a model of a house or a person. I want to hide the terrain. Remove the sky. That's another thing. The sky is obviously spinning. It's spinning a bit too fast at the minute. But there's your skybox. And if I move the water and the terrain, you can just see. It's basically a large cube. It's like being inside of a dice, and it's just spinning around. Now if I change the color of the sun here, it slightly, or more than slightly, tweaks it shades the sky. Let's put the terrain back on. It also shades the terrain as well, and even the water. If we put the water back on, I can save the terrain. And these have some pre-generated variables, so like the sizes here, I can press that and it will just load a large map or a small map. I don't really use those anymore. Okay, and you've seen a little bit of the shader controls, so a bit more. If you've got a couple of textures, you can blend one into the other. So basically now we have texturing on terrain, and this is a slope threshold, so you can change if the terrain is really steep, like a cliff face. You can say when it's really steep, do mud, but where it's quite flat, do grass. So you see the flat area, as it gets flatter, it's more likely to be grass, and if it gets steep, it's mud. But we can change those as well just here with the texture manager. So I believe it's maybe clear texture, and then I just happen to know to remember some of the textures. So this was a decent grass texture, and you can see it's going higher and higher. You can have different levels of textures as you go higher up the y-axis. So like up a mountain, you might have snow at the top. So you can have different blend effects. But that was just a bit better than the other grass, as you can see. It's a bit more natural. It's too high. And let's just export and make that again. There we go. So where it's flat, I believe, I've got it that way. Where it's flat, it's grassy. If it gets a little bit steep near the water, it becomes more like mud. Feel free to subscribe as well. Subscribe and like. Okay, what else have we got? There's a tool here, it's called the Y-scale tool. So if we just move that up, it's stretching the terrain, but only on the Y-axis. The engine was quite weak and still is at making mountains. I've got quite a few more tools, but that just stretches. Also drops. And that's just time of day. Fully daytime. Let's remove that. What else have we got on the shader controls? So this was different thresholds. Where I loaded in the different levels of grass, you might load in grass, then snow. And you can just tweak where each one starts. So at the top of the mountain, the snow would blend in. And what else have we got? So I just did this a few days ago. Some of you would have been around fog. So a distant fog editor. So you choose your color of fog. You choose where it starts and then where it ends in the distance. And the larger if you have a large terrain, you'd want to put it really quite far into the distance. So it doesn't look too much like fog if you bring it a bit closer. And make it a bit more grey. But also you can use it for, you don't have to use it for fog. And what I would do is I'll make the map just twice the size. And maybe some mountains. We'll reload it and then we'll test the fog again. Let's just change that Y vector. Okay. So now we have mountains. And you can see the fog in the distance. And as we go to the distant, as we move forward into the horizon, the fog will continue to move as well. But there's just something I'm not quite happy with how it looks at the minute, the fog. Maybe it's a starting position. The colour. But you find fog is just like one extra thing that gives more realism. And of course, your fog might be, it depends what planet you're on, like a No Man's Sky kind of game. They have different, quite strange hues for fogs. But yeah, fog. There's fog. And on and off. Actually, it's interesting. It looks like it's not doing much. But then when you turn it off, you can see it's quite a big difference. But I like my fog. Okay. There's a few things here like winds. I've not coded in the winds or anything yet. And we have some tools here. There's a wireframe. So this is the terrain. Just a better view this time. What else do we have? So the physics I won't demonstrate at the minute. I have a few bugs in the physics. What we will do now is go to, 1 second. You can see it's changed quite a lot there. So this is a terrain editing tool. So just then I was generating terrain with this height map editor. Turn the water off. But now you can probably guess this is to change terrain just by clicking it. So rather than using these features with IMG UI that we coded, I have here different brushes. So let's say a square brush. Now these features are quite, I mean, the whole engine's quite basic. But basically, wherever I click now, I've chosen a square, and you can make it go up or down, of course. You turn it off. And now you're creating canyons. Shift just to remove the user interface. And I have some buttons here to go back and forwards with the history. See that? So that's redo and undo. You can see the fog's working as well. Without fog, it's all just quite flat. But the fog in the distance is nice. The fog works best when you're at ground, because if we look at my feet here, there's no fog at all. But when you're really high up, it looks like there's fog everywhere. Okay, so then back to that tool. There's also a flatten brush, so you choose the brush, flatten, and now I can just keep pressing and make the brush size maybe, let's say 40, 50. And I'll turn that off. And now this area here is very flat. And if you go to your wireframe, you can see the difference. The canyon. So all around the edge was generated here, was generated by noise with these tools. And then these were created with the square brush and flatten brush. I think there's a circle brush. I don't know if it's not so. It depends what you want to create, I would say. Turn that on. What have we got there? So now you've got some more, probably more natural canyons, but they are very circular, which you can tell when you go into the wireframe. And just once again, you can go backwards and forwards with all of that. And edit mode on and off. I'm still editing. So that's a mistake, just go backwards. Snap to origin, this little button just takes you back to the origin 0, 0, so the corner. Okay, an FBO, so a frame buffer, but basically you can just create, let's say, if you want another perspective. So when you're editing like this, you create an FBO. And now you've got, while it's during edit mode and everything's purple, you've got a little window here so you can see how it's impacting with the textures on. And as I move, that will move, or you can create one that doesn't move, give it a new name. Window 2. I've got window 2. You saw me change the height and the width. But one will move and one will stay still. And they're just different views. So that's achieved with FBOs, and then you render the texture and then you draw the texture to the IMG UI window. Okay, here, so some of you guys will know, but it's a shader. It's shader code that will be responsible for drawing everything to the screen. So not C++, but GLSL. And anytime you want to change your shader, you shut your engine. I'll show you here on Visual Studio. You shut your engine and then you pull up the shader, maybe on the side. So this is a shader here for the text. So for the fonts on the screen. Excuse me, I'm going to get more water as well. So this is not C++, this is C++ here, but this GLSL code will run on the graphics card. And anytime you want to change how it's drawing and rendering things, you have to shut the program down, edit your shader code. You can probably guess what this does is it allows us to just edit the shader code whilst we're running. So the default shader, but you can at the top, you can create your own shaders and press add shader. That would obviously crash and give errors. But that's just a tool that saves you restarting every time. Okay, here I have a debugger. So this is a console. So there's quite a few little things going on. It's paused at the minute. If I turn pause off, it will now give us errors or information. So let me pause again. So there's different categories of messages. So there's just the info, which is generic. It's telling me I'm inside my texture function. So my C++ code is running a particular function. So I was debugging. I wanted to know when I was in that function. Now it's switching different shaders and numbers. You can turn show errors on, turn info off, turn shader messages off, show OpenGL errors. So we have a little error there. I don't know what that is. Show asym messages, which is when you're loading 3D models. And as you saw, there was a text size as well. Show info. There we are. Okay, I will say I've got a few bugs. Let me see if I can load a 3D model. So let me load a house. Okay, we have a house. So as you can see, firstly, let me pause this. And the font needs to change here, but there's some writing that's just saying it's loaded and it's drawing from some buffers. So it's drawing the model. Every error has a different color font, and I've picked a bad color for this one here. Okay, clear the log just to save memory. So I don't have. So normally on the engine, you'd click something, and then you'll have the little axis, so you can move it around left, right, up, and down. I have not created that yet, but I've put the concept in, so up and down, as you can see. But yeah, all three axes, or you can rotate. Although it's not rotating at the origin, or maybe the model origin is just off. But you can rotate across all axes. We also have a bit of a material editor / object inspector. Get rid of that water control. So this here will go through the different components within the model I've just loaded. So for example, the ground plane. And now we can directly edit the ground plane. We've made it transparent. This was maybe one afternoon's work just for this little tool. Now that is a light that's in the scene. You couldn't see them earlier because they paused until there's any model. So that wasn't me. That was just going past. I don't know if it has I don't know if you can see its source. And then you can change almost the color. But when an object has a texture, you can't always interfere directly with the color because its color is the texture. But you'll see the way it's reflecting light has been changed, which is I think the ambient color have changed. And then so we can transparency, the cube. I think that's a cube. There's actually a cube inside. It's just part of the model. Yeah, you see it there. And also this is good for editing tools if you want to see inside, or yeah, it could be any number of reasons. Wireframe. And there's a few other tools. Render, let's have a look. Display. Render selected, submesh separately. So this tool here, it's quite a fiddly tool, but this will. So this object is made of 3. Let me show you. That's made of 3 submodels. So there's the plane, there's the house, and there's a cube. Let me delete it. We might have a crash here. Yeah, it sometimes crashes, but not completely. If I load more than one model, that didn't used to be there, of course. Okay, I think it's just recovering now. Let's have a look. No, I'm just going to hit restart. It's just as far as the engine. It'll only take 5 seconds. Okay, here we go. So let me load a model again. I just want to demonstrate this tool. And it might have been the actual model that's crashing out. I'm not sure, to be honest. So I think I've loaded. We're looking for a Bugatti. Some models don't load at 0. It depends how they've been drawn. Very strange. No. Oh, there we are. It's just below us. And that would just be because of how they saved it in Blender. A model as an origin, like the center 0, but you might draw it down here on Blender, so it would load the 0 with the engine 0. But so you don't always know. The artist has just not helped, maybe. Okay. Now, if I just put some light on the scene, so I've not really demonstrated the light, but choose a light color. Let's say white, and a strength. Add light. So a white light will just give the natural properties, the natural colors of the car. Let's move it up to the top. Where it should be. Yeah, hi Dark Void. Is that your birth name? Respect. So yeah, this video, I just want to go through some of the features and bugs of the engine. So I'll just show him the models. Maybe we go a bit higher with the car. Where's it gone? I want it on top of our grid. There we go. So now it's like actually in the world. And if I just generate some flat terrain, we just got a better reference point. Okay. By the way, this is a light source here. And if I press this button, it will unleash them so that they'll move around. You can see the red light now. It's obviously too bright and not a nice color. But it's just demonstrating lighting. But now here, what I wanted to show was, if we go to render selected submesh separately, what this would do, quite a mouthful. It loads up this window. Yeah, well, that would be cool. Give us a subscribe, and it might be another, I don't know, 6 months before I'm making a game. And I would still be developing the engine. So with the wireframe, you have all these parts, but it draws them all. But this tool here allows us to draw just one part of the car at a time. So a submesh. And I just need, so the concept is in the engine, it works fine. But actually the issue is, you see there's a little dot here. Let me bring that at center. So that dot is a part of the car. Now I don't know what, it will be a screw. But if we go to the next submesh, and now you see here, so it places them proportionally to where they actually are on the car. And you can see the lights changing color of the object as something's moving past. So let's go to next submesh, and it's going through each individual part of the car. But it will do this with any model you import. And then maybe you want to change something, the transparency. So whatever that was is now invisible. Is this the rims on one of the wheels? Also now invisible or transparent. And you can change them like the diffuse color. So you're editing the materials. Now you can probably, if you've watched the whole of this video, you will see that I have a lot of things in just conceptually, and what I mean by that is this works, but the user interface is not, it's not good, it's not great, it's a bit fiddly, there's some buttons at the bottom, there could be more, but the concept is there, the hard work is done. So that was render selector submesh, turn that on and off. Like and subscribe. Okay, so what do we have here? We've got the skybox. So that was the material editor. Maybe I need a new name because it does a little bit more, and also it hasn't got all the materials yet, like shininess. I think I need to tweak, and illumination. Although for those that have coded shaders, the shader is, I think, almost ready for it. So the shader's coded. And let's get some sunlight back on the world. Brightness. So these lights here, I can turn them on and off. 1 second. So them lights, the light sources, they're still moving, but the visual's gone, as you can see. So maybe you want, let's say, some green lights, or purple lights in the world, very strong. And you just want to add, where's that add button? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now there's 5 lights that are moving around that are purple. Now the terrain is running on a different shader to all 3D models. So it'll only be 3D models, so the car, that will be impacted by these purple lights. As you see the purple on the back, that's a reflection. And I think the rest of the lights are just too high. So perfect timing. But yeah, the brightness is so high, it's just like scorching. I'll remove those lights. And then I can go through each light in the scene here. So make it bigger. And we can make it a directional light, which means it's like a torch that instead of going out like a sun everywhere, it's just like going forward. And when you do that, it stops the light completely. So there'll be a light that's stopped somewhere. Where's the ball that's not moving? Somewhere. Let me turn a few more on. So those have just stopped. And I can change here. So this light, I'm moving it. Change its color to red and its strength, but also the direction, so it will spin round, which might not be obvious. It depends which way the light's pointing. Let's see if I can just demonstrate it. And what that is, that's another light going past it. Maybe even the sun. Yeah. But basically, if there was because as I said, it don't interact with the terrain, but it would the car. So then you'd see like the light coming from it. The terrain and these lights, they don't know each other exist. Don't know if I can demonstrate this or not. It should work. Which one is it? This one? Maybe it's this one. Yeah, it's this one here. You see that? You'll see now. There you go. I know you doubted me. So that's the way that the red light will be pointing. There you go. I saw you doubting me there. Like, don't worry, I did. And then you take it off directional light, and it will just go and move around the world. So that's just for me to test lights as the coder. So that's a bit on lighting. I've demonstrated some textures and the concept of the shaders, the materials. What was this for? Ambient light. I think that was a replacement and another way to change the light of the sun. Physics data. I'm not showing the physics engine today. The truth is, and it's probably good to help any new coders along, but I've just broke it. but it's sad because I broke it and I didn't know, and then I just went to use it a few months later after having developed more tools, and then all of a sudden the physics didn't work. So I need 3 hours to fix that maybe. Okay, let's go to the text editor. So I only put text in yesterday, as you can see. So this is a text message. You choose where it starts. And then you choose your font size. And create message. And it's the green text. This is a text message. It's hard coded in the C++ to be on a rotation. I was just testing 3D. So instead of just flat text on a screen like where it says debug console here or shader manager here, I was putting text actually within the 3D world, not just like a welcome to the game, not a flat 2-dimensional piece of text. And there's a few other things floating about, like, so here it tells me where the camera location is in yellow. Let me just delete the text, by the way. So text is gone. So the yellow is my camera location. So that's good for debugging where I am in the world. If I press this, I'll go to 0, 0, 0. If I scroll the mouse, it will zoom forward fast. That's just another little feature. Because these are all things you have to create, right? The 3D that you're looking at is just an illusion. The screen is 2D, so this is all coding and linear maths. If anybody's put off by having to do maths, you can get a lot done with an average or slightly less than average math background, I would say. There's a library called GLM. I'll write that down. GLM for maths. Just have a look into that a little bit. Okay, just above there's also character position. So I said I wasn't going to show the physics, but maybe I will. And how do I do that? So character debugging. So some of the physics works. I can walk around. Excuse me. So this will set the location of the character, which is just a camera that we move around the terrain. And if I press follow character, 1 second, deleted the car. Just want some user interface space. So follow character. So now the camera, I think I might be underground. Yeah, so, oh no, I was above ground. So this here, this gives the character, so when I press forward and backward, gravity and friction are coming into play. So you get to set these properties within the character. Is the character a soft ball or a balloon? Is it a car? Is it something that rolls? It has a shape, and how does it interact? Is it a rock? Is it soft? So these all come into play. I just don't know if it's going to work. Follow character. So you can see I'm moving now. I'm just going to hide the water because there seems to be some sort of bug. Or it may be that the character's just walking around the same level as the water, so it's just confusing. I think that was it. Okay, so here we go. I'm pressing on the keyboard. And we're going down into the mountains. So we do have physics. You can see the grid here. Where am I from? Is that for accent purposes? I'm in the UK. How about you? You're thinking it's my bedtime. But I'm really pleased that the physics are working. But yeah, what was happening was the character was going beneath the water because the water doesn't it doesn't stop the ball from rolling through the water. Now the physics engine is called Bullet or PyBullet, and the shape of the character is a capsule, so it's quite circular. But I believe it doesn't roll. It just moves with friction, like pushing a stool or something, but it doesn't fall over. And hit escape, and then I just come out. Shift to bring my user interface back. So the character is actually there somewhere. It's invisible, and I have a button that will turn on the physics engine. First, let's follow the character. But I might get a crash because it just takes so much power, and because the physics engine is very large. So you'll see like a mesh. Let me turn it on. I want to see. So you can see here, there's a ball here. Now, if I remove the terrain, you might see this ball or you might not. Yeah, so you can see that. Remove the grid. So there's the ball. And then everything else. I've removed the terrain. So you're going to say, why can you still see the outline of the terrain? That is not actually the terrain. That's an identical representation of the terrain in the physics engine. So that's where the ball will hit and where it will roll to. So if I turn off, if I remove the physics engine, there you go. Now that you can't see anything. That's a bit noisy, by the way. That's just my laptop. I turned the speed up so it would render the engine. Now let's put the terrain back on. So this is different to the physics engine you just saw, but they will be in the same position. Let's see if we can compare. So I'll put the physics engine on. There you go. The physics engine is, I think, like 1 inch or 1 unit below. So they're not perfectly aligned, which is good for demonstrating. So the ball will go a bit through the soil, and I can just move that up. I'll just get a bit closer just to explain. You see here, look. So first there's the player, the ball. Now because the camera just follows that, so you don't see it, it doesn't matter what it looks like. But if we go really close here and turn the physics engine on, that's the physics engine there. I'll turn the terrain off. So that's the physics. And that's the terrain. And then turn wireframe off. Now I do have a bug, or just something I've not yet fixed. So if I go to edit the terrain and flatten it, and let's make a large brush. Flatten this terrain a little bit. Is it flattening? Let's make it bigger. Even more so. Let that go, yeah. So I think we have a bug. It shouldn't be hard to fix. So there is the new terrain flattened. Now if I put the physics engine on, you can see the physics engine hasn't changed. So if I now start moving the player around, the player won't fall onto that flat ground. So this is how physics works. So let me go up here. So the player still thinks that the hill is here. So this is physics being demonstrated. Here, look, just on the left. Now what I did was I had a button here, recreate physics terrain. So that should recreate that. And I think, I don't remember, I think I just didn't finish that. So I've just pressed it. I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, so it looks like it's broke. I think it did recreate it, but then there's also some errors. Definitely, you see like there's lines going up. So it's pretty wild. Yeah. I think it didn't delete the old one also. I think it like put those together. I saw you retracted the message asking where I'm from. I need to do that. Is that to keep my chat tidy? I appreciate that.
This world has room for everyone.
Okay, do I have anything else
Good Earth is rich.
I want to demonstrate for now? So there's a tool here that will generate a cave, basically it will just sort of bomb the terrain, as you can see. That's just distorted that. And it depends how big the terrain is for how the effect will work out. And then there was some river, some sort of river tools that I created that are not quite working, to be honest. Oh really? Yeah, I always go on Twitch. So this tool has just sort of been abandoned, this to generate. I think it's okay, like it can serve a purpose, but obviously it's not working as a river should. Let's just refresh that. Yeah, let me just check on Twitch as well. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. This here will just move the whole terrain. So if I maybe type, let's have a look. 100 into the X and apply. Oh, I've actually got a crash. I'm not sure why. And because I almost never use that tool, there's not really any need. That was more for debugging. I think once I lost the axes, I didn't know what was the X and the Z. I lost my orientation before I had the grid. So yeah, I've not debugged that because I don't really use it. And then here is just some more terrain tools. So what were these? I've not used these for so long. Let's have a look. Oh, okay. It don't want to work. And this is sometimes what happens when you're going live. It's good for you to see the bugs. I was watching Finn Matrix. He did check out Finn Matrix on YouTube. Actually, I learned how to make water from Finn Matrix. And did he teach me anything else? I think it was just a water tutorial. But it's really good, and he made a video talking about how he got stuck and he made no progress in a day, and it made me feel better, and I don't think he'd realised. So now you get to see some of my failures. Okay, I'm gonna say good night. I think that's an hour stream. I just didn't want to not stream today, and so I went with just a little demo of the tools. Did I miss anything else? The physics data, shaders, the Y scale. I'm not sure if I missed anything. The fog, of course. You can tell I like my fog at the minute. the 3D models. Apparently I've just loaded a medieval building. Let's see where it is. There we go. I think it has no light. Maybe. Let's get rid of the water now. Everything else. So there's no textures on this apparently. Or the light is too bright. Yeah, it could be that. You see here. There's some light moving across the scene. Okay guys, oh wait, is that the fog by the way? No, I thought maybe the fog was doing that. It might be this. And this is what happens when you load models that you never use. Okay, good night, thank you.